Hi, this is Amigo with the Bulletin Board Heroes here at Zach's Traders Cafe for Tuesday, the 1st of August. Starting on with the FTSE 100, where we're becalmed at basically post-June resistance. Can't quite get over the 7,700 mark and can't quite get over that February resistance line there at 7,750. We'd like to see that hopefully over the next week or so. We do have a rising 200-day line, which is rising quite aggressively actually. It's 75.95, so above that. Looking for that break of the February resistance line. If we do go over the top, then the target could be as high as 8,200 by the end of next month, although obviously with the current macroeconomic backdrop, that seems relatively unlikely. A break of the 200-day line could take us back to the June resistance line breakout level around 74.50 as a worst-case scenario at the moment. Moving on to the DAX, which seems to be in a different world to the FTSE at the moment, even though we have had a bull trap through June and May-June resistance around 16,300 after getting up to as high as 16,500 to start the week. But nevertheless, while we're above the 50-day line, which is still rising at 16,000, looking for that proper break of 16,300 and then getting through to the top of that rising trend channel from August last year at 17,200 as soon as the end of this month, but we need to hold that 50-day line. Below that, risks a move to 15,700. On to the Dow, and here the position is steady, let's say. We've got the market consolidating at and above that old March resistance line target, 35,200. Above that, looking for as high as 37,200 by the end of this month, although, as we said, difficult to work out what could be the trigger for such a happy scenario. On the downside, back to July resistance at 34,500 as a negative scenario if we break down from current levels. On to Bitcoin, which has been basically like someone with a sore tooth over the recent past, and now we've had the break below the rising 50-day line. Quite difficult to do that actually, but it's managed it after about a week or 10 days, 29,400, the level of the 50-day line. Below that risks a move down to initial June resistance at 27,400 and maybe even the 200-day moving average at 26,700. So a bit disappointing there. RSI now below 40, which is also not helping the mood at the moment. On to the stocks, and quite a motley bunch today. First starting off with Amigo, where it's always a bonus to be able to cover the stock at all, given the history of the company, on the fundamental front anyway, but we still seem to be loyal to this rising trend channel from March. That's based around the 0.45 level, and above that, we were looking and have been looking for as high as 0.9, which is a March resistance line projection. A best case scenario for people who really think Amigo is a fantastic company would be up to 1.5 pence at the top of that channel. But in the near term, probably just trading against that 50-day line. If you are somebody who likes that kind of thrill, near 0.5 would be the thing to do. RSI actually back above neutral 50, so looking surprisingly chirpy there. And if we get a close above the low of back in on the 26th of June, which was the floor of the gap there at 0.77, it would actually be a continuation buy signal, which started off actually with the unfilled gap to the upside back in June. Onto a stock which has actually exceeded expectations, which is always a nice thing. It's overshot the runway. The previous call here was that we would hit the top of that rising trend channel from December. 1.15 pence above that, though, we're actually looking for a potential new leg to the upside. That could be up to the resistance line that I'm drawing at the moment, so maybe up to 1.4 pence, but we really do need to hold above the floor of that gap there at around 1.05 on an end-of-day close basis. Otherwise, it looks like a bit of a one-day wonder. 1.4 possible while we remain above the floor of the overnight gap at 1.05. Moving on to a stock which haven't covered too much of late, but here we are with Belluscura, and shares trying to make a turnaround, deliver a turnaround there, which obviously happened since June. The old support there was back at 32 pence and the 50-day moving average at 31. Above that, we're looking for up to 50 pence at the top of a broadening triangle from back in April. But the gap today, I suppose, good news in terms of the technicals. Speaking of good news, a stock which has blown the lights out over the last few days has been Blackbird. There is speculation on social media of why that might be the case, but here we hit our initial target there at 12 pence. That was valid while we were above 8. We had another target at 14, which has also been, or 13.5, which has also been taken out, and above 14 pence now, looking for as high as 20 pence at a November resistance line projection, and that could be seen as soon as the end of this month. Ideally, we stay above. We don't actually have an end of day close back below today's 12.5 pence low, but end of day close above 14 could take us up to 20 on Blackbird. On to cellular goods, where things seem to have stabilized on the fundamental front. We've got a rising trend channel there from back in December. The floor of the channel there around the 0.7 pence level. Be good to see the shares clear the recent resistance and the 200-day moving average around 0.95. And that would then open up the possibility, although maybe not a great possibility or big possibility, of a move up to 1.7 pence by the end of next month. But the key here is, I think, getting back above that grey 200-day moving average. We haven't been above there properly since the, I suppose the end of 2021, really was the last time. So it would be quite a turnaround for cellular goods to achieve a weekly close above that. On to Harland and Wolff, which seems to be enjoying itself at the moment with these RNSs. Bear Trap Island gap, Trap Island reversal with the gap down, and then the unful gap to the upside to start this week. We've been looking for 18 pence, which hopefully will be hit while we're above that broken resistance line from November at 13 pence. Maybe you could let the stop loss down to the 12 pence level at the top of that gap, but at least 18 pence looks to be on the cards, which would retest May resistance. Moving on to Hemogenyx, which seems to be stirring at the moment, I suppose waiting for the FDA, and looks like it's some people have already anticipated what's going to happen there. Here we've got a break of that resistance line there from the end of May. That's around the 1.5 pence level. Above that, looking for a resistance line projection target as high as 2.4 pence. As soon as the end of next month, and that comes from the early part of this year. Moving along to a stock which gets almost no coverage anywhere, but here we have it, Intuitive Investments. Here we've had a nice, had an unfilled bear trap gap reversal from below the 50-day moving average. That was around 5.5 pence, and then we've had a good consolidation and a V-shaped bull flag above the 200-day line, which shows some underlying strength. Looking for 10 pence over the next week or two, hopefully. Best case scenario, maybe by the end of next month, up to 15 pence if we can clear 10 pence in the first part of August. On to Optibiotix, where I suppose placings permitting after such a big rise. Looks as though the shares are gearing up maybe for a retest of the best levels of last month in the low 40s. The key here is holding the 25 pence level, which has been recent support, and I suppose as a worst case, you would hope that support would come in at or above the floor of that gap. But above 25, looking for 40 pence plus on Optibiotix at the moment. On to Ondo, which has been one of the stars of the spring and early summer, and here you can see that good support found in the 30 pence area, V-shaped bull flag here. We've actually found support above one of our previous targets there, around 34 pence, and now looking for 45 pence as soon as the end of this month. As you can see, the recent rally started with an unfull gap to the upside and a break of a resistance line, which is a classic pattern, as is that V-shaped bull flag. On to stock which may not be on many people's radar. We've got Reneuron. Here it's quite intriguing that we've had basically a bear trap from below the January support there, around 8.5 pence. We've also had a sideways consolidation above a rising 50-day moving average, which tends to be a very good signal, actually, and we'll see how good it is, obviously, over the next few weeks, if anything materializes. Want to see a break of basically 9.5 pence on an end-of-day close basis. That could be the trigger for a move up to 15 pence. And as I said, if this signal works, that sideways shuffle along and above a rising 50-day line, I think one would be very happy indeed. Early and end-of-day close back below that 50-day line at 8.2 pence, delaying the possible move to the upside. Speaking of possible moves to the upside, Spectral is on the radar at the moment. Here we had a gap close buy signal at the end of last week, so closing above the top of that June gap at 45 pence. Above that, we're looking for the shares to retest basically April resistance in the low 60s, and that could be seen as soon as the end of this month. Ideally, we stay above 45 pence in the meantime. A couple of stocks to go now. First one is Saietta, where good news from the company, but so far the shares have been slightly disappointing. We have a U-shaped bull flag, as I call them, after an unfilled gap to the upside, so still potential for decent move to the upside. If you're cautious, probably want to see an end-of-day close through the 200-day line at 51 pence, and then that could lead up to 90 pence over the next couple of months. Everything would be put on hold, though, if we fall below the 40 pence level and that 50-day moving average. Moving on to Upland, where we were looking for 0.95 as a target by the end of August. We got that by the end of July, and then we were looking for 1.5 pence by the end of August, and we also got that by the end of July. Current position is that above 1.5 pence and that resistance line projection from November, we've got a best case scenario target, hopefully by the end of this month, as high as 2.6 pence at an October resistance line projection. Obviously, the shares have come up a long way now, so the chances of hitting 2.6 are rather diminished compared to previous targets, but let's see how we go with that particular call. That's it for me today. More updates tomorrow.